When I was little, I would use my finger to draw pictures in the sky. It enabled me to draw wherever I was, whenever I wanted to, without needing anything other than my body to do so. It was something I did unconsciously, something I felt I needed to do to express myself. It was a way for me to create a breathing room in my head, by taking the images my brain creates and putting them into the real world. Now that I am a young adult, this is still what making art essentially means to me. It gives me a sense of calm and organization in the chaotic storm of thoughts that my mind has a tendency of drifting towards. My favorite way to express my thoughts and stories is through fictional characters. I've always loved designing all different kinds of characters, representing a wide range of personalities, emotions, and general roles in society. Before I studied at the Willem de Kooning Academy, these characters would be motionless. I would draw them with pencil and paper or digitally with my trusty old drawing tablet, but they remained still. Studying animation and learning about the different animation principles allow me to breathe life into my characters through motions. They were no longer restricted to a single pose or emotion, but they were allowed to be as transformative and dynamic as I needed them to be. Because of my everlasting love for drawing by hand, I quickly gravitated towards 2D frame-by-frame animation. Using this technique gives me a sense of freedom and expressiveness for creating my animations. When I start working on a creative project, I start by drowning out all of the background noise and focus on the first image my mind creates when thinking about the subject or message I want to convey. I then quickly sketch out this image on paper with my trusty HB pencil and eraser, while following my instinct and trying my hardest not to care about any preconceived rules or realism. After I'm done sketching, I take a picture with my phone so I can work further on it digitally. This is when I start finalizing the concept, improving and changing parts of the sketch to get it closer and closer to the original image I created in my mind. What I love about working digitally is the way it allows you to experiment and explore while creating. You can use endless amounts of layers, experiment with things like layer styles and effects, and copy and paste as much as your heart desires. Creating digital art gives me the feeling of being a curious, playful explorer, wanting to learn something new about the world he's in every time he visits. There are a couple of sources I've been drawing inspiration from for the last couple of years. My visual style is hugely inspired by rubber hose animation from the 1930s era. The animated films from this era really managed to push the 2D animation medium because of their wildly imaginative characters and worlds, which disregard a lot of the rules of the real world but obey the most important ones like gravity and weight to still make them feel convincing. My style is molded further by artists like Joost Leeuwma and Lucas Krepel from Frame Order, who I learned a lot from during my internship there. Studying their clear and simplistic drawing styles has taught me how to be a more efficient animator and storyteller by getting rid of unnecessary details in my work, which only distract from what I want to communicate to my audience. The subject matter of my work is inspired by sources like science fiction. I find it fascinating to speculate about the future, to think about in what ways life will be different from now, and what kind of new moral issues and problems will arise from this. Some examples of sci-fi inspired projects I made are Flesh and Wires, which is a visual novel about racism and divisiveness in a futuristic world where androids live among humans. Another example is A Day with Nicholas, a 2D animated sci-fi short film about a high school student living in an underground city in the year 2060. It shows the unfairness of future generations having to compensate for the mistakes their ancestors made. Another huge source of inspiration for me is music. When listening to music, I often form images in my head based on the sounds of the different instruments, the lyrics and the rhythm. To express my love for music, I've worked on some different projects closely related to music over the years. The animated music video for Data X Dalai Dunn's Question on Your Mind, for example. For this project, I was inspired by psychedelic illustration and animation. The aim of the video was to make it feel like one long trip sequence, with creative transitions and fantastical visuals. Another project I work on is the Food Project. For this project I made a bunch of animations for a recurring event called Food, a concept created by students from Eindhoven. The visuals of my animations were inspired by tropical birds and plants, which are the main theme of Food's branding. The last source of inspiration I want to address is mental health. Being conscious and talking about mental health is something that I've become more interested in over the years. And because mental health is such an abstract subject at its core, I find it a meaningful and fulfilling challenge to try and visualize different aspects of mental health. For the first real animation project I did on the Academy, I used the subject of a burnout as my main source of inspiration. My dad had a burnout when I was still a child, but I was too young to understand what this meant. Making my abstract short film Burnt Out helped me understand what it feels like to have a burnout and made me discover my interest in the subject of mental health. I kept using mental health throughout the years as the source of inspiration for many different works, in which I tried to visualize in a concrete and understandable manner what kind of complex feelings myself and the people around me were experiencing at the time. Instead of making invisible sky drawings like I used to do as a kid, I have now found purpose in making my work visible for the world to see. By sharing my work with others, I hope to form a connection with them through it. I want my visual arts to show a side of myself that can't be seen from the outside. An artistic alter ego of sorts, which tells you more about my identity and my way of thinking about life than I will ever be able to do using words. Letting people get to know me on a spiritual level through my work and helping them understand complex and abstract subjects like mental health is a meaningful pursuit to me. Using the artistic skills I've acquired over the years, I will keep on trying to achieve this goal. To make the world a more compassionate, kind-hearted place, even if just a little.